What if everything you thought you knew about human history was a lie? What if the Bible, one of the most widely read books in the world, is actually hiding a truth so profound, so dangerous, that it could change everything? You see, buried within, its verses are cryptic messages, references to mysterious beings called the Elohim, a plural term that doesn't refer to a single god, but to multiple entities. And when you compare these biblical accounts with the ancient Sumerian texts, a chilling pattern emerges. Because long before the Bible was written, the Sumerians, the world's first known civilization, left behind detailed records of celestial beings who came down from the heavens. They called them Anunnaki, not gods in the way we think of them, but rulers, engineers, and manipulators of human destiny. And here's where things get really strange. These beings weren't just myth. Their influence is written in stone, their legacy embedded in ancient texts that predate the Bible by thousands of years. So why was this knowledge erased? Why was humanity's true history rewritten? The answer may shock you. Because if the Anunnaki were real, then our origins, our purpose, and even our very DNA might not be what we've been led to believe. This is not just about history, it's about control. It's about the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki, a secret so powerful that those in control have spent millennia ensuring that the masses never uncover the truth. But today, we're going to lift the veil. We're going to expose the secrets hidden in ancient texts, decode the messages buried in religious scripture, and uncover what the rulers of the past and present never wanted you to know. Because once you see the truth, there's no going back. Are you ready? The Bible's hidden truths for centuries, people have turned to the Bible for spiritual guidance, unaware that some of its most profound secrets may have been hidden in plain sight. The term Elohim, often translated as God, is actually a plural, word suggesting multiple divine beings rather than a singular entity. But who were these beings? Ancient Sumerian texts speak of the Anunnaki, powerful entities who descended from the heavens and played a direct role in shaping human civilization. Could it be that the stories of Genesis are echoes of an even older narrative, one deliberately obscured to keep humanity from uncovering the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Religious scholars rarely discuss why the book of Genesis presents God speaking in the plural, "Let us make man in our image." This peculiar phrasing aligns perfectly with the Sumerian myths of the Anunnaki, who were said to have engineered humanity for a specific purpose. Were these ancient texts describing the same beings, but from different cultural perspectives? If so, why was this knowledge buried beneath layers of interpretation? It appears that history has been carefully edited, leaving only fragments of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki in religious texts that millions still follow today. Imagine if the origins of humanity were far more complex than we've been led to believe. The Bible's flood story, the Tower of Babel, and even the enigmatic figure of Enoch all hint at a lost history, one that closely mirrors the myths of Sumer. The Book of Enoch, removed from most biblical canons, describes celestial beings descending to earth, teaching forbidden sciences and influencing human affairs. If this sounds eerily similar to the role of the Anunnaki, that's because it is. What if the real reason these texts were excluded was to keep humanity ignorant of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Let's take a step back and consider how ancient civilizations might have interpreted advanced technology. To a pre-industrial society, beings with immense knowledge and power would have been seen as gods. The Bible's descriptions of divine chariots, burning bushes that spoke, and beings who walked among men may not be supernatural at all, but rather misinterpretations of an advanced race interacting with early humanity. The Anunnaki, according to Sumerian texts, were not ethereal spirits but physical beings who ruled and guided civilizations. Could their influence be the key to understanding the cryptic messages hidden within biblical scripture? The deeper one digs, the more unsettling the patterns become. Why do so many ancient religions speak of sky gods, celestial wars, and divine beings bestowing knowledge upon mankind? The Bible, stripped of its theological interpretations, seems to be telling a story eerily similar to the Anunnaki legends. What if the true narrative of creation, the fall of man, and divine intervention was deliberately altered to prevent people from accessing the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Perhaps we were never meant to serve an all-powerful deity, but rather to recognize our own potential, one that certain forces have worked hard to suppress. Even biblical miracles take on a different meaning when viewed through this lens. The parting of the Red Sea, manna from heaven, and the Ark of the Covenant all resemble feats of lost technology rather than supernatural acts. Some researchers argue that these were remnants of the knowledge the Anunnaki passed down, knowledge that was eventually hidden, lost, or destroyed. If this is true, then humanity has been kept in the dark for millennia. What other clues might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for those brave enough to question the official narrative? This isn't about disproving faith, but rather expanding our understanding of history. What if the Bible, rather than being a purely spiritual text, is actually a fragmented historical record, one that has been selectively edited to fit a particular narrative? If the stories of Genesis are, in fact, retellings of Sumerian myths, then the implications are staggering. The idea that humans were created in the image of divine beings takes on an entirely new meaning when we consider the role of the Anunnaki. And if this knowledge has been hidden for so long, we have to ask, who benefits from keeping the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki out of reach? But the Bible isn't the only source of ancient mysteries. There are texts far older than the scriptures we know today, texts that could hold the key to understanding our true origins. The Library of Ashurbanipal, containing tens of thousands of cuneiform tablets, may provide answers that religion has long sought to suppress. Archaeological discoveries deep beneath the sands of time, a forgotten history lies waiting to be uncovered. In the 19th century, archaeologists unearthed the Library of Ashurbanipal, an ancient collection of over 30,000 cuneiform tablets that predates the Bible by thousands of years. These tablets, written in the Sumerian and Akkadian languages, tell stories that sound eerily familiar. Tales of creation, great floods, and divine beings who descended from the heavens. But unlike biblical accounts, these texts make no attempt to disguise the nature of these entities. They are not spiritual figures. They are rulers, engineers, and manipulators of the human race. Was this library a vault of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Among these ancient writings, one of the most shocking discoveries was the Epic of Gilgamesh, a tale that predates the Book of Genesis, yet contains strikingly similar themes. It describes a catastrophic flood, a chosen survivor, and divine beings who shaped the course of human history. But here's the twist. The flood wasn't the act of a merciful God punishing sin. It was a calculated event initiated by the Anunnaki themselves. This raises unsettling questions. Did the biblical flood borrow from an earlier, more complex history? And if so, what else has been rewritten to keep the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki buried? The Sumerian King List, another incredible artifact, found among these tablets, challenges everything we thought we knew about human civilization. It records the reigns of kings stretching back over 200,000 years, some ruling for tens of thousands of years at a time. Either these were impossibly long-lived rulers, or the records speak of something far more mysterious, an advanced civilization that once governed humanity before the Great Flood. If true, this would rewrite history as we know it, proving that the world before the Bible was far older and far more advanced than mainstream scholars admit. These discoveries force us to reconsider the origins of religion itself. The stories found in the Library of Ashurbanipal suggest that what we now call myth may have been historical truth that was later modified to fit a more controlled narrative. What if these ancient records were not simply poetic allegories, but detailed accounts of real events, carefully documented by scribes who witnessed the influence of the Anunnaki firsthand? The very idea shakes the foundation of human history, hinting that the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki was systematically erased, leaving only fragmented versions behind. But here's where it gets even stranger. The detailed astronomical Knowledge found in these ancient tablets should have been impossible for early civilizations to possess. The Sumerians described planets in our solar system that modern science only confirmed in the past few centuries. How could a civilization from over 5,000 years ago have known about celestial bodies invisible to the naked eye? The answer, some believe, lies with the Anunnaki, a race that not only ruled over mankind, but also shared knowledge that was later lost or intentionally hidden. If you think about it, history is always written by the victors. What if the victors in this case were not just human kings, but powerful beings who ensured that their legacy was obscured? The destruction of ancient texts throughout history, whether in the Library of Alexandria or the burning of Mayan codices, suggests a pattern. Knowledge is power, and power is only given to those who can control it. The Library of Ashurbanipal may have been one of the last repositories of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki, and its discovery threatens to unravel a tightly controlled version of our past. One thing is clear: the deeper we dig, the more the past defies conventional explanation. If the oldest writings known to humanity tell a story that contradicts what we've been taught, then what other secrets lie waiting in the ruins of our ancestors? Archaeologists continue to uncover artifacts that don't fit within the accepted timeline of human history, and each discovery brings us closer to a truth that has been long suppressed. Could it be that the Bible itself is merely a remnant of a far greater narrative, one that was intentionally altered to keep the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki out of the hands of the masses? And if this is true, then the implications stretch far beyond mere historical curiosity. Because if the Anunnaki played such a pivotal role in shaping humanity, what exactly was their purpose? Were they benevolent creators, guiding us toward enlightenment, or were they something far more sinister? The ancient texts hold clues, but to understand them, we must take a closer look at what they say about the beings who ruled before recorded history even began. The Anunnaki's role in human history: imagine a time before written history, when humanity was still in its infancy, scattered in small tribes, struggling to survive. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, entire civilizations appeared: Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, all with advanced knowledge of astronomy, agriculture, mathematics, and law. How did primitive humans acquire such knowledge so suddenly? According to ancient Sumerian texts, they didn't figure it out alone. The Anunnaki, a powerful race that descended from the heavens, were said to have shaped human civilization itself. But were these beings gods, or were they something else entirely? Could they have been highly advanced entities, rulers, teachers, and engineers, who set the course of human development, ensuring their own dominance in the process? Unlike the gods of later mythologies, the Anunnaki were described as physical beings who walked among humans, ruled over them, and even interbred with them. They weren't abstract spiritual figures. They were kings, judges, and warriors. Some were benevolent, offering wisdom and technology, while others were cruel overlords, treating humans as a workforce to serve their own needs. This concept isn't unique to Sumer. The idea of gods living alongside humanity appears across multiple ancient cultures. But when we strip away the religious interpretation, a chilling possibility emerges. Were the Anunnaki simply an advanced race exerting control over a developing species? And if so, could the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki explain why certain elites throughout history have always seemed to hold power over the masses? If the Anunnaki were real, then their influence on early humanity was beyond profound. The Sumerians, the first known civilization, credited these celestial beings with their greatest advancements. The Anunnaki supposedly taught them how to farm, build cities, and establish laws, skills that allowed humans to transition from hunter-gatherers to an organized society almost overnight. But here's the question no one dares to ask: why would advanced beings care about developing human civilization? Was it an act of benevolence? Or was there a deeper, more self-serving reason? The idea that humanity was guided into civilization suggests a purpose, one that may be hidden within the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki. What if human history as we know it isn't a story of gradual progress, but rather one of intervention and control? Many ancient texts describe the Anunnaki as rulers who established kingships, dictating who would lead and who would serve. This pattern repeats throughout history, certain bloodlines rising to power, maintaining influence for generations. Could it be that these ancient rulers were merely following an old system put in place by the Anunnaki? If so, does that system still exist today, with power remaining in the hands of a select few who secretly understand the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? One of the most mysterious aspects of the Anunnaki's role in history is their sudden disappearance. At some point, the direct rule of these beings ended, and humanity was left to govern itself. But why? Some theorists believe the Anunnaki never truly left, but instead began operating from the shadows, influencing events through chosen rulers and secret societies. Others suggest that a war or internal conflict among the Anunnaki led to their withdrawal. Whatever the case, their departure left behind knowledge that certain groups may have safeguarded while keeping the rest of humanity in the dark. If that's true, then what else is being hidden? The lingering question is this: were the Anunnaki guiding humanity toward enlightenment, or were they merely using us for their own agenda? In almost every ancient account, the relationship between gods and humans was not one of equality, but of dominance and submission. This raises an unsettling possibility. What if human civilization, as advanced as it seems today, is still operating under a system put in place thousands of years ago? Are we truly free, or are we unknowingly following a blueprint designed by our so-called creators? The answer might be buried in the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki, hidden in plain sight, but suppressed by those who benefit from the deception. If the Anunnaki played such a crucial role in shaping early humanity, then their fingerprints should be all over our myths, legends, and even religious texts. And indeed, when we examine these ancient stories with an open mind, we start to see a pattern, one that leads straight to the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event that wiped out much of the known world. But was this disaster truly an act of divine wrath, or was it something far more calculated? To uncover the truth, we must turn to one of the oldest and most revealing texts in existence, the Epic of Gilgamesh. The flood myth's connection. A great flood is one of the most enduring myths in human history, appearing in cultures from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica. But what if it wasn't a myth at all? The Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis tablet tell a story eerily similar to that of Noah's Ark. Except in these versions, the flood wasn't an act of divine punishment, but rather a decision made by the Anunnaki themselves. According to these texts, the Anunnaki grew frustrated with humanity, either due to overpopulation or rebellion, and decided to wipe the slate clean. This wasn't the work of a merciful God. It was the calculated move of an advanced race with the power to reshape the world. And if that's true, what else might be hiding within the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? The Epic of Gilgamesh describes Utnapishtim, a man chosen to survive the flood after receiving a warning from the god Enki. He built a massive boat, saved animals and his family, and endured a storm that lasted days, only to find himself the last survivor of a lost world. Sound familiar? The story predates the biblical account of Noah's Ark by over 1,000 years. But here's where it gets even stranger. The Sumerian text makes it clear that the decision to flood the earth was not a test of faith, but a strategic move by the Anunnaki. They weren't omnipotent beings. They were rulers making choices based on their own interests. Could it be that Noah's story is simply a retelling of a much older history that has been rewritten to obscure the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? If this flood was real, then it wasn't just a natural disaster. It was an event that reset human civilization. Archaeological evidence suggests that around 10,000 BCE, massive floods swept across the earth, wiping out entire populations. Could this be the same event described in these ancient texts? Some researchers believe the flood marked the end of an advanced pre-flood civilization, one possibly created or ruled by the Anunnaki. If that's the case, then history as we know it began with a cover-up, erasing whatever came before. And more importantly, it suggests that humanity may have reached great heights in the past, only to be brought back to square one. But why would the Anunnaki want to wipe out their own creation? Some theories suggest that humans became too independent, too numerous, or too difficult to control. If the Anunnaki originally designed humanity for labor, as Sumerian texts imply, then our increasing population and self-awareness may have threatened their authority. In response, they purged the earth, keeping only those they deemed valuable, those who carried the bloodline or knowledge they wished to preserve. If true, then the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki isn't just about our past. It's about a system of control that may still exist today. Interestingly, the idea of a great reset isn't limited to ancient texts. Throughout history, we see repeated patterns of civilizations rising and falling, often through sudden and unexplained disasters. Could these cycles be deliberate? If the Anunnaki saw humanity as a long-term project, it would make sense that they would occasionally clean the slate, removing societies that became too advanced or difficult to govern. This would mean that history itself isn't linear progress. It's a controlled loop, where only select knowledge survives while the rest is lost. And if this is the case, what secrets have been erased from the historical record? The Bible's flood story ends with a covenant, God's promise never to destroy the earth by water again. But the Epic of Gilgamesh offers no such reassurance. Instead, it implies that the survivors were chosen carefully, that humanity's fate was decided by those who ruled from above. If this selection process was real, then who were the chosen ones? And more importantly, did they carry with them the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Ancient bloodlines, secret societies, and hidden knowledge all trace their origins back to this great catastrophe. What if the flood wasn't just about destruction, but about ensuring that only a controlled version of history would survive? And if this knowledge was preserved, then where is it today? Some believe it remains hidden in ancient ruins, encoded in symbols and texts that only the initiated can understand. Others suggest that it lives on in the elite families and institutions that continue to shape the world in ways most people never question. But one thing is clear. If the flood was an event meant to erase and reset civilization, then whatever came before it may hold the answers to who we really are, and what the Anunnaki intended for humanity all along. But the flood wasn't the only anomaly in ancient records. The Sumerians also documented the reigns of their earliest kings, some ruling for tens of thousands of years. Were these exaggerated legends, or do they hint at something far more extraordinary? To find out, we must turn to the mystery of the Sumerian king list. The Sumerian king list. Mystery history books tell us that human civilization began around 5,000 years ago with the rise of Sumer. Yet the Sumerian king list tells a very different story. This ancient document, etched into stone and clay tablets, records the reigns of kings stretching back over 200,000 years, with some rulers said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years at a time. Mainstream historians dismiss these numbers as mythology, but what if they aren't exaggerations? What if these so-called gods who ruled for millennia were actually flesh and blood beings, perhaps the Anunnaki themselves? If that's the case, then the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki may hold the key to understanding a hidden chapter of human history. The list is divided into two sections: the reigns before the Great Flood and those that came after. Before the flood, kings ruled for absurdly long periods, one for 43,200 years, another for 28,800 years. Then, after the flood, their lifespans drastically shortened to something more recognizable, more human. This sudden shift raises serious questions. Did something happen to the ruling class of the ancient world? Were these pre-flood rulers truly human? Or were they the Anunnaki, governing their creation before stepping back and letting humanity rule itself? If so, then what caused this transition? And why was the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki hidden from later generations? We see similar patterns in religious texts. The Bible, for example, describes figures like Methuselah living nearly 1,000 years, while later generations had much shorter lifespans. Could these stories be echoes of the same phenomenon recorded in the Sumerian king list? What if early rulers had access to something, a form of genetic enhancement, technology, or knowledge that allowed them to live far longer than modern humans? And if that's the case, did they lose this ability over time, or was it taken from them by those who wished to keep humanity in the dark? But here's where it gets even more bizarre. Many of these ancient kings claim to be descended from the gods, their bloodlines tracing directly back to the Anunnaki. This concept of divine right to rule, where kings are seen as chosen by the heavens, exists in nearly every ancient civilization. Egypt's pharaohs, Japan's emperors, even medieval European monarchs all insisted they had celestial ancestry. Could they have been preserving a secret lineage, one that carried fragments of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? If so, what does that mean for the modern world, where power is still concentrated in the hands of elite families with mysterious origins? Some researchers speculate that the Anunnaki used humans as rulers by proxy, setting up a system where a chosen few would govern on their behalf. These early kings may have been hybrids, part Anunnaki, part human, an idea that aligns with legends of demigods found in countless mythologies. Hercules, Gilgamesh, even the biblical Nephilim, beings who were part god, part man. If these stories are based on truth, then the bloodlines of these hybrid rulers may have carried down through history, shaping the elite class that still wields power today. Could it be that modern world leaders are the distant successors of the Anunnaki's chosen rulers? And if so, do they still possess knowledge the rest of humanity has been denied? The Sumerian king list also suggests that after the flood, kingship was lowered from heaven once again. This phrase implies that ruling authority was re-established. But by whom? If the Anunnaki left or retreated into secrecy, did they appoint new rulers to manage humanity in their absence? Or did the surviving bloodlines simply continue their reign, ensuring that the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki remained in the hands of a select few? The idea that humanity has been under a long-term, hidden influence is unsettling, but the patterns in history are hard to ignore. What's even stranger is that similar king lists exist in other ancient cultures. The Egyptian pharaohs were said to have been ruled by gods before human kings took over. The Hindu Yuga cycles speak of divine beings reigning in past ages, with each cycle ending in destruction and renewal. Why do so many civilizations share the same story? Long-lived rulers, divine ancestry, and a great reset that wipes out knowledge before a new era begins. Could this be the ultimate secret behind the cycles of human history? And if ancient kings were once rulers under the Anunnaki, then their knowledge of genetics, longevity, and technology must have been far beyond what we assume. The Bible's phrase, "Let us make man in our image," suddenly takes on a new meaning when compared to Sumerian texts. Were the Anunnaki not just rulers, but engineers of the human race itself? To answer that question, we must turn to one of the most controversial theories of all, the idea that humanity itself was designed through genetic manipulation. Genesis and genetic engineering. When the Bible says, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness," most assume it's a poetic way of describing divine creation. But what if it's something far more literal? Ancient Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki as not just rulers but scientists, engineers who manipulated life itself. According to the Atrahasis epic, humanity was not created by an all-powerful deity, but by the Anunnaki through a process of genetic engineering. They supposedly took a primitive hominid and combined it with their own essence, creating a hybrid species designed to serve them. If this is true, then the origins of humanity are not a divine mystery, but a scientific experiment hidden within the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki. The story goes that the Anunnaki, after arriving on Earth, needed workers to mine gold and perform labor-intensive tasks. But instead of doing the work themselves, they decided to create a workforce. The task fell to Enki, a master geneticist, and Ninhursag, a divine healer, who supposedly fashioned mankind by altering the DNA of an existing species. This eerily resembles modern genetic modification, where scientists edit genes to create new life forms. Could ancient myths be describing real advanced technology that was beyond human comprehension at the time? If so, what else might have been hidden from us about the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Consider this. Mainstream science acknowledges that humans underwent a sudden and unexplained leap in intelligence and ability around 200,000 years ago. Before that, early hominins evolved gradually, but then, seemingly overnight, we developed complex language, advanced tools, and organized society. Evolution doesn't typically work in such rapid leaps. Could this be evidence of an external force accelerating human development? Some scientists call it the missing link problem, but ancient texts suggest there was no missing link at all, just an intervention. And if the Anunnaki truly altered human DNA, could their modifications, still be present within us today? Interestingly, many ancient cultures have stories of gods creating mankind, but they often describe a trial and error process, as if our ancestors were experiments. The Popol Vuh, the sacred text of the Maya, says the gods made multiple versions of humans before getting it right. The first attempts were too weak, the second too mindless, and only the final version was successful. This mirrors the Atrahasis account, which suggests the Anunnaki had to refine their genetic project before achieving a stable version of modern Homo sapiens. Were these texts metaphorical, or do they contain clues about a forgotten history? 1. Deliberately suppressed because it reveals the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? If humans were genetically engineered, it would explain why we are so different from other primates. Unlike any other species, we possess extraordinary intelligence, creativity, and self-awareness. But we also have genetic anomalies that make no evolutionary sense, like our strangely weak physical bodies compared to other animals, or our unusually large brains that require excessive energy. Could it be that we were designed for a specific purpose? And if so, were we meant to evolve beyond servitude? Or have we unknowingly remained part of a system that was never meant to free us? This might also explain why certain bloodlines have always maintained power throughout history. If the Anunnaki truly infused part of their DNA into humanity, it's possible that some bloodlines retained a higher concentration of that genetic material. Royal families, secret societies, and ancient priesthoods have long claimed to possess divine ancestry. Were they preserving something more than just a title? Perhaps the elites of the world have always known about the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki, carefully guarding it while ensuring the rest of humanity remains unaware of its true origins. Even today, science is on the verge of playing God through CRISPR and other genetic modification technologies. We are now capable of editing DNA, creating hybrid species, and even resurrecting extinct creatures. If we, in our infancy as a technological civilization, have already reached this level of manipulation, imagine what an advanced race with thousands, if not millions, of years of knowledge could achieve. What if the Anunnaki never truly left, but have been subtly guiding human progress, ensuring that only those who are worthy gain access to the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? And if humanity was engineered rather than evolved, then what was the ultimate goal? Were we meant to be more than just workers? Some ancient texts suggest that humans once had abilities far beyond what we know today. Longer lifespans, heightened senses, and possibly even psychic abilities. If so, was that knowledge stripped away to keep us under control? To understand the true extent of what we may have lost, we must turn to one of the strangest and most controversial stories in the Bible, the tale of the Tower of Babel. Could this ancient structure have been more than just a symbol of human arrogance? Some believe it was far more advanced than we've been led to believe. The Tower of Babel as a stargate. The story of the Tower of Babel is often told as a cautionary tale. Human arrogance reaching too high, only to be punished by a jealous God. But what if there's another explanation, one that has been deliberately hidden? According to the book of Genesis, humanity once spoke a single language and worked together to build a massive tower that could reach the heavens. But instead of celebrating this achievement, God confused their language and scattered them across the earth. Strange, isn't it? What kind of divine being would fear human cooperation? Unless, of course, the tower wasn't just a structure, it was something far more advanced. Some researchers believe the Tower of Babel was actually a stargate, a technological device left behind by the Anunnaki, and that its destruction was meant to prevent humanity from accessing the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki. Ancient texts often describe divine beings descending from the heavens, but what if heaven wasn't a mystical realm, but a literal place? Another world, another dimension. The Sumerians believed that the Anunnaki came from Nibiru, a mysterious planet that supposedly has an elongated orbit around our sun. If the Tower of Babel was a stargate, it could have been a means of travel between Earth and the domain of the Anunnaki. Perhaps this wasn't about human arrogance at all. Perhaps humanity was on the verge of re-establishing contact with its creators, and someone wanted to stop that from happening. Could this explain why knowledge of advanced ancient technology has been systematically erased? Was the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki locked away to ensure we never reclaim our cosmic heritage? If this theory holds any truth, it would mean that our ancestors possessed far greater knowledge than we've been led to believe. The concept of gates to other realms isn't limited to the Bible. Numerous ancient cultures describe portals, wormholes, or sacred structures that connect the earth to the heavens. The Egyptian Ben stone, the Hindu Vimana, and the Mayan stairways to the stars all hint at advanced technology mistaken for religious symbols. Even modern physics supports the idea that wormholes or interdimensional travel could be possible. What if the Anunnaki weren't just ancient rulers, but interstellar travelers who left behind remnants of their technology that was later hidden or destroyed? It's also interesting that the punishment for building the Tower of Babel was not physical destruction but linguistic division. If this was about defying God, why not simply destroy the tower and move on? Instead, the people were scattered and their ability to communicate was taken from them. This seems less like divine wrath and more like strategic sabotage, preventing humanity from sharing knowledge and working together. Even today, the idea of divide and conquer is used by those in power to maintain control. Could the fragmentation of human civilization have been an intentional move to keep us from rediscovering the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? There's also the peculiar connection between Babel and Babylon. Babylon was one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient world, known for its knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering. The name Babel itself means Gate of the Gods in Akkadian. If the tower was merely a tall building, why would it be associated with a gateway to the divine? Some believe the original Tower of Babel was not in Babylon at all, but was actually a much older structure. Perhaps even the legendary Etemenenki, the ziggurat dedicated to Marduk, a god many believe was an Anunnaki ruler. Could this lost structure have housed technology that allowed direct communication or travel to the realm of the Anunnaki? Interestingly, there are accounts of ancient rulers attempting to rebuild the Tower of Babel. Alexander the Great, upon reaching Babylon, was fascinated by the ruined tower and ordered it to be rebuilt. Yet mysteriously, the project was abandoned. Why? Some say he discovered something that convinced him to leave it alone. Did he stumble upon a remnant of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? Something too dangerous to unleash? What if the ruins of this ancient structure still contain secrets, waiting to be uncovered? And if a Stargate did exist, is it possible that its technology has been recovered and hidden away by modern institutions? The idea that humanity once had access to interstellar travel sounds like science fiction. Yet many classified government projects today focus on similar research. Whistleblowers have claimed that secret programs exist to study ancient artifacts with supposed technological properties. Could it be that modern elites have already rediscovered the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki and are using it in ways hidden from the rest of the world? If so, what else is being kept from us? And if the Tower of Babel was truly a device capable of reaching the heavens, then what was the Anunnaki's true motive in shutting it down? Were they trying to keep humanity from evolving beyond servitude, or were they protecting us from something even more dangerous? To answer that, we must ask a bigger question. Were the Anunnaki benevolent guides, ruthless overlords, or something in between? Control versus knowledge. Throughout history, humanity has been caught in a struggle between control and enlightenment. Knowledge is power, and power has always been concentrated in the hands of a few. But what if this struggle didn't begin with kings and emperors, but with the Anunnaki themselves? Ancient Sumerian texts suggest that the Anunnaki played a direct role in shaping human civilization. But to what end? Were they benevolent teachers, helping a primitive species rise to greatness? Or were they cold, calculating overlords, ensuring that only a select few had access to the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki? The answer might lie in the way knowledge has been systematically hidden, destroyed, or distorted throughout history. Consider the sudden disappearance of advanced ancient civilizations. The knowledge of the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans seemed to appear out of nowhere, then vanished just as mysteriously. Many of their texts were burned, their monuments buried, and their wisdom lost to time. Why? The deeper one looks, the more it appears that history follows a repeating cycle. A civilization rises, gains knowledge, and then is either destroyed or forcibly reset. Could this be part of a greater mechanism, one designed to keep humanity from accessing its full potential? If so, who or what is behind this control? Could it be that the Anunnaki, or their chosen successors, still pull the strings from behind the scenes? Religious texts hint at this ongoing struggle. The story of the Garden of Eden, for example, is often seen as a tale of disobedience. But what if it's really about knowledge versus control? The serpent, often demonized, actually encouraged Adam and Eve to seek enlightenment, while Yahweh forbade them from eating the fruit of knowledge. Was this a warning from a creator who loved his people? Or was it the suppression of information that could have liberated humanity? Many alternative historians believe that this story is a metaphor for the Anunnaki's influence, keeping mankind intellectually limited while ensuring obedience. If this is true, then the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki might be more than just history. It could be the very key to breaking free from an ancient system of control. Even today, powerful institutions control what information the masses are allowed to access. Scientific discoveries that challenge mainstream narratives are often dismissed. Ancient artifacts that don't fit the official timeline are hidden away, and alternative theories about human origins are ridiculed. But why? If knowledge is meant to be free, why is it so tightly restricted? Some believe that those in power today are simply following an ancient blueprint, one established thousands of years ago by the Anunnaki themselves. The goal? Keep humanity ignorant, divided, and focused on survival, rather than seeking the truth about our origins and potential. But what if some fragments of this lost knowledge have survived? Legends of mystical societies such as the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and the Priory of Sion suggest that certain groups have carried pieces of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki through the ages. Whether through sacred texts, hidden artifacts, or oral traditions, these groups have supposedly preserved knowledge that could change the world. If this knowledge were to be fully revealed, it could shatter the foundations of religion, science, and government as we know them. Could this be the real reason why the truth about the Anunnaki has been buried for so long? The idea that humanity is being controlled isn't just a conspiracy theory. It's a pattern that plays out in every era of history. From ancient times to the present, rulers have maintained power by controlling what people know and believe. Whether through religion, politics, or mass media, the message is always the same. Do not question, Do not seek. Do not think beyond the limits imposed on you. But what happens when people begin to wake up? What happens when individuals start looking beyond the accepted narrative and seeking out the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki for themselves? If the Anunnaki truly infuse their essence into humanity, then we are more than just their creations. We are their heirs. That means we may already possess within us the ability to break free from this ancient control system. But reclaiming that power requires something dangerous, the pursuit of truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. And that brings us to the ultimate question. If the Anunnaki left their mark on us, what exactly did they leave behind? Could it be that humanity itself carries a divine spark, one that has been suppressed for thousands of years? If so, then discovering that spark would be the greatest revolution in human history. But what is it? And how can we unlock it? To answer that, we must look deeper into what the ancients believed about the true nature of humanity. The Anunnaki may have created, but did they also leave us with something far greater than just servitude? The divine spark in humanity? What if the greatest secret of all is not that the Anunnaki created humanity, but that they left something of themselves within us? Across ancient cultures, there is a recurring theme. Humans are more than just flesh and blood. We are vessels of something divine, something powerful. In the Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki infused mankind with their own essence, creating a species that was not only intelligent, but also spiritually capable of great things. This might explain why humanity has an innate desire to seek knowledge, explore the stars, and push beyond its limits. But here's the problem. What if this divine spark has been deliberately suppressed? What if the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki isn't just about history, but about understanding who we really are? Think about it. Throughout history, certain individuals have displayed extraordinary abilities. From the prophets of ancient religions to the geniuses of science and philosophy, there have always been those who seem to operate on a different level, tapping into something beyond ordinary human capability. Could it be that these individuals somehow accessed a dormant part of themselves, a remnant of their Anunnaki heritage? And if so, could every human have the potential to unlock this hidden power? If we possess even a fraction of the abilities of the beings who created us, then the implications are staggering. It would mean that humanity was never meant to be weak and submissive. We were meant to evolve into something far greater. This concept isn't limited to mythology. Modern science has begun to hint at something remarkable within us. DNA, the very blueprint of life, contains vast sections that remain a mystery, so-called junk DNA, that scientists cannot yet explain. But what if this genetic material isn't junk at all? What if it's the key to something that has been lying dormant within us for thousands of years? Some researchers speculate that human DNA may have been tampered with at some point in history, limiting our abilities and ensuring that we remain controllable. If that's true, then the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki could be more than just a historical secret. It could be the answer to unlocking humanity's true potential. Even religious traditions hint at this hidden power. The Bible states that humans were made in the image of God. But what if this was never meant to be taken literally? What if it means that we possess a fraction of the power of the beings who shaped us? Eastern philosophies teach that enlightenment is the process of awakening an inner power, something that has been buried beneath layers of conditioning and control. Could it be that spiritual enlightenment and the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki are one and the same? If so, then the real battle is not just for information, it's for consciousness itself. What if the suppression of this knowledge is the reason why institutions of power, whether religious, political, or scientific, have always worked to keep people ignorant? If humanity ever realized its full potential, it would mean the end of control as we know it. Wars, economic systems, organized religions, all of them are built on the assumption that people remain unaware of their true nature. But what happens when people begin to wake up? What happens when individuals start unlocking their hidden abilities, questioning the narratives they've been fed, and seeking out the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki for themselves? The system as we know it would collapse, and those in power would no longer be able to manipulate the masses. The idea that we carry something extraordinary within us isn't just philosophy, it's encoded in our very biology. Some traditions speak of a third eye, a spiritual center capable of perceiving beyond the material world. Others speak of energy fields within the human body that, when activated, can lead to heightened awareness and even abilities that seem supernatural. Modern science is now exploring the untapped potential of the human brain, with studies suggesting that we only use a fraction of its full capability. What if the reason we are so limited is because something, or someone, ensured that we never access our full power? Could it be that the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki holds the key to reversing this suppression? If the Anunnaki left their essence within us, then they may have also left clues on how to unlock it. Sacred texts, lost technologies, hidden teachings. They all point toward the idea that enlightenment is not just a spiritual state, but a return to something that was once taken from us. The greatest secret may not be in ancient ruins or forgotten scrolls, but within our very DNA, waiting to be activated. But if that's true, then we must ask ourselves, why were we made to forget? Who benefits from keeping us blind to our true nature? And most importantly, how do we reclaim what was lost? And if the Anunnaki truly shaped human destiny, then are they still influencing our world today? What if they never truly left, but simply took their control to a level so hidden that we no longer recognize it? To find out, we must turn to the modern world and ask, is their influence still at play in our governments, our religions, and even our technological advancements? Modern implications: if the Anunnaki truly played a role in shaping human civilization, then their influence shouldn't just be buried in ancient myths, it should still be visible today. And in many ways, it is. The control systems established thousands of years ago, monarchies, priesthoods, secret societies, still exist, just in a different form. Governments, corporations, and religious institutions continue to dictate what knowledge is accessible to the masses. But who, or what, is really behind this control? Could it be that the Anunnaki, or their descendants, never truly left? If the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki is still being suppressed, then who benefits from keeping humanity in the dark? Consider how technology has advanced in just the past century. We went from riding horses to landing on the moon in a matter of decades. But what if these breakthroughs weren't entirely human achievements? Some theorists believe that hidden knowledge, possibly even Anunnaki technology, has been carefully released in stages, ensuring that progress is controlled and never reaches a point where humanity could become independent of the system. There are even claims that classified programs exist, working with recovered ancient artifacts that contain advanced technologies. If that's true, then our modern world is not just built on human ingenuity. It may be the result of a slow, deliberate drip feed of the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki. The elite families and organizations that dominate global affairs today trace their power back to ancient times. Bloodlines that ruled centuries ago still hold influence in politics, banking, and industry. Many secret societies, such as the Freemasons and the Illuminati, are rumored to guard hidden knowledge passed down from antiquity. But where did this knowledge originate? Some believe that these groups have safeguarded fragments of the Anunnaki's teachings, using them to maintain control over the world while keeping the masses ignorant. If true, then we are not living in a free society. We are living in a carefully controlled environment where only a select few hold the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki. Even modern religion may be part of this grand deception. The Anunnaki were described as gods, but what if they were simply powerful beings who used religion as a tool to control humanity? Many religious texts speak of divine beings who descend from the heavens, command obedience, and punish those who seek forbidden knowledge. Could it be that these stories were not about spiritual enlightenment, but about a ruling class ensuring their dominance? If the truth about the Anunnaki were widely known, it could collapse the foundations of many belief systems, forcing humanity to rethink its place in the universe. UFO sightings, alien abduction reports, and secret space programs all hint at something beyond the official narrative. Governments have spent decades denying the existence of extraterrestrial contact, until recently. Now, military and intelligence agencies are slowly acknowledging that unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, are real. But why now? Some believe that the world is being prepared for a gradual disclosure, one that will reveal that we have never been alone. But what if these beings aren't just visitors? What if they've been here all along, watching, influencing, and ensuring that the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki remains out of reach? The biggest question remains: are the Anunnaki still actively shaping human history? If they were once rulers, did they simply step back and allow their human proxies to take over? Or have they remained hidden, continuing to manipulate the course of civilization from behind the scenes? Some believe that certain global events, wars, financial collapses, even pandemics, are engineered not just by human elites, but by forces that have been operating since the dawn of civilization. If this is true, then the battle for humanity's future is not just about power, it's about control over knowledge itself. But not all hope is lost. If humanity was created by the Anunnaki, then we may also have the power to break free from their influence. The real secret may not be hidden in ancient ruins or classified documents, but within us. If we are their creation, then we may also hold the key to surpassing them. The question is, how do we reclaim what has been taken from us? How do we access the knowledge that has been buried for millennia? Perhaps the real challenge is not finding the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki, but awakening the power that has been inside us all along. And if we ever uncover the full truth, will we be ready for it? Because once you see beyond the illusion, there's no turning back. The world as we know it may never be the same again. If the Anunnaki truly shaped human history, then what does that mean for us today? Were we designed to be mere workers, or is there something greater hidden within us? Something that has been suppressed for thousands of years? The evidence suggests that humanity was never meant to remain in the dark, yet knowledge has been carefully controlled, rewritten, and erased. But now the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, and the truth is no longer so easy to hide. So ask yourself, if the world's most powerful institutions have spent millennia suppressing the forbidden knowledge of the Anunnaki, what else might they be keeping from you? What if the key to breaking free isn't locked away in a secret vault, but buried deep within you? What if you are more powerful than you've ever been told? Think about the cycles of history. Civilizations rise and fall, knowledge is gained and lost, and the few always rule over the many. But what happens when people wake up? What happens when humanity stops blindly following and starts questioning? Maybe that's why this knowledge has been hidden for so long. Because those who hold the keys to power know that once the truth is revealed, their control will crumble. But now, it's your turn to decide. Will you continue accepting the version of history you've been given? Or will you start looking deeper, questioning everything and reclaiming the knowledge that was taken from you? The truth is out there. You just have to be willing to find it. And if you want to keep uncovering the mysteries of our past, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning. The deeper you go, the more shocking the truth becomes.